Spring training has started, and the Cubs are off to a good start. 2 dominant wins. But is the roster set? We've talked a lot about Cody Bellinger. What about another one of Scott Boras's clients? Could Jordan Montgomery possibly be signed by the Cubs? Jon Heyman, MLB insider, says that they're one of the 4 teams to keep an eye on for the World Series heroes' services. Brennen Davis once was one of the Cubs' top prospects, a guy that everyone had projected to be in the major leagues now and be starring, but it just hasn't happened that way. Injuries, setbacks, and now he's been passed by other Cubs young players, including Hollywood Pete Crow Armstrong, and Alexander Canario. Had a big game, though, yesterday. Nice game. Home run, got on base, swinging the bat. Could he possibly move himself back into the prospect category? We're going to talk a little Brennen Davis. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you're a Cubs fan or you're a baseball fan. Hey, we don't care. Thanks for hanging out with us, though. Let's get this thing started. Here's your invitation. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel, and it is a pleasure to have you guys here. Baseball season is underway. I've watched 2 games already, and it's been fantastic. And I'm going to do it again tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I love the fact that all the games are during the day. It's perfect. Nothing better than a little bit of day baseball out in Arizona. And the weather looked a little cooler today than it was, or yesterday than it was the day before that. And today, looks like it'll be all right. It's always in the beginning of spring training, like the end of February. It's chilly, and then it warms up, and normally the weather's fantastic. But so is the baseball action. We're going to talk about that, the 8-4 win the Cubs had over the Giants. Drew Smyly got the start, did a nice job. Some of the guys out of the bullpen. But I want to start with what Jon Heyman had to say, because I think it's still worth keeping an eye on. Just because I feel like the Cubs have money that they're just kind of holding back, deciding whether they want to spend it or not. And is that going to be on Cody Bellinger, or could that be on Jordan Montgomery? And they're saying maybe $100 million for Jordan Montgomery, right? Jon Heyman listed 4 teams to keep an eye on for Montgomery. This year's market, and for Boras clients, feels like last year's climate for crawfish down in Louisiana. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it's the highest price they've ever been because they had a drought and the crawfish didn't grow. Kind of feels like that's what's going on right now with the Boras 5. Although the Cubs listed by Heyman as one of the 4 teams to keep an eye on. The Red Sox, the Angels, and the Giants are the other teams. Now, the Angels have said, and maybe this will change, but ownership, they were going to sell. Now they're not going to sell, and they kind of felt like, hey, sounded like they were going to stay pat. The Giants thought about making some moves. They did. They signed Soler and some other players, but sounds like they're set. The Red Sox want to trim payroll, not add. And then the Cubs kind of in that same thing. Hey, unless we add revenue, we're not going to spend more money. Now, all that could just be smoke screens for Scott Boras, because I just have this feeling that the Cubs are going to make a move, and they're going to kind of take everyone by surprise when they do. So would another left-handed pitcher in this rotation make sense? Maybe it does if you make another move to go with it. So who knows what they're thinking right now. But Jordan Montgomery last year in the postseason came into his own. 3-1 record, 2.90 ERA, led the Rangers to their first World Series. And they had some injuries in the rotation, and it was Montgomery who put the team on his back and carried them to the place that I never thought I would see him go, and that is a World Series champion. So could the Cubs really be in the mix for Jordan Montgomery? I don't know. We keep talking about Cody Bellinger. And on Marquee, they asked the question. They were talking to Dustin Kelly about it on the broadcast yesterday. And this organization feels, at least they're leading us to believe, that they're very confident that they're going to be able to find other players to step up and match the production that they're losing if they don't bring Cody Bellinger back. So we'll see what happens. I mean, you're only 2 games in. It's not even March yet, but a good start for the Cubs. These early spring games, I don't know how much they matter or they don't, but I would much rather be on the winning side of things than on the losing side, right? So let's talk about someone that we haven't talked about in a long time, and that's Brennen Davis. And it really is good to see Brennen Davis back in uniform and contributing to the Cubs. He was the hottest prospect the Cubs had about 3 years ago. Remember, he went to the Futures game and he hit 2 home runs and he was the MVP. And it was projected that he was going to be in the major leagues. It's going to be the heir apparent to Jason Hayward, I kind of felt like for a time. And now it feels like he's fighting to stay relevant. And it's been because of injuries. And count me into that mix because I haven't had him in my sphere of possibilities at all. Not that I don't think he could potentially make it, but when you look at the other guys that are there, Pete Crow Armstrong, Alexander Canario, Owen Casey, you're talking about some pretty big time outfield prospects. Plus you already have Ian Happ, Mike Tauchman, and Seiya Suzuki. And then if you sign Bellinger, but yesterday was a good day for him. That game was a good game for him. The home run, had a base hit. He's got to have an enormous spring. And if he does that, maybe he catches the eye of Craig Counsell. So who knows? But it's a good problem to have for the Cubs. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Competition is so important when it comes to winning. You want guys to feel the pressure of someone else potentially taking their job because it'll bring out the best in them. So congratulations to him. So a good start to the season for Brennen Davis. It's 1 game, got a long way to go, but I'm sure it felt good to hit a home run and to help the Cubs get that win. Now, a lot of players played in the game. It's hard to sit there and go, okay, who stood out and who didn't stand out. David Bodie had a home run. He's another guy that we really haven't mentioned a whole lot. But another player that's got to have a very good spring and make a new impression on Craig Counsell. Bodie's got a major league contract, but he didn't get to the big leagues last year. He was in the minor leagues all season. So opportunity for him to try to find some room on the major league roster, maybe as a utility guy, maybe interject himself in that third base battle. I'm keeping an eye on the Cubs pitching, though. Drew Smyly, couple of walks, but 2 solid innings, didn't give up any hits or runs. We got to see Ben Brown, gave up a couple of hits and a walk, but the stuff looked good, had a strikeout. Very high number, wearing 86, Brown. Luke Little, the big left-hander. This is a guy that the Cubs really need to have a dominant spring, leave no doubt that he's going to be an option for them going into the regular season. The Cubs actually had an 8-0 lead in that game yesterday going into the 9th inning. So a lot of good things going on in Cubs camp. So we'll keep an eye on all of it here. Excited about watching the battle in the outfield take place. Is Brennen Davis going to try to push Pete Crow Armstrong, who's going to try to push Mike Tachman, who's going to try to push Alexander Canario? It's what you want. And a real good vibe so far from what I'm hearing in Cubs camp. Craig Counsell, very serious, focused, but also working on the fundamentals of the game. And it just seems like this guy really fits in so far. So that is definitely a good thing. Now, I know he was out, and we send him obviously our thoughts and prayers, condolences on the loss of his mom. And Flash, it's good to see Ryan Flaherty back in that Cubs uniform. You talk about full circle. Flash in the dugout was the manager in yesterday's win. Guys, get in that comment section. Tell me what you think. Cubs will take on the Padres at Sloan Park. It's going to be a lot of fun. Another game. We'll keep an eye on how that thing progresses. And if anything breaks, we'll get right back on here and talk about it. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Cubs baseball channel. And I want to remind you that we're presented by the Tennessee Smokies team store, Smokies baseball /store, Cubs gear, Smokies gear, championship gear, all of that there, including autographs of some of the top prospects right now, and the collector's corner, all that at smokiesbaseball.com /store. Thanks, guys. Give us a thumbs up. Go Cubs.